Oh, there were lots of boos at full-time at Old Trafford. Manchester United drawing 1-1 with relegation-threatened Burnley, mounting yet more pressure, you'd think, on Erik Ten Hag. 2 wins in 9 in the Premier League now, Melissa. And it was quite a torrid performance from them in the end. Do you think this is going to, in any way, ease the pressure on Erik Ten Hag? Because he does I feel like he's under the pump all the time.
It definitely doesn't ease the pressure, especially when match-going fans tend to turn and they're now questioning not just the results. So the boos weren't just at full time, it was when the substitutions were made. They were vocalising their dismay at that as well. And you know what? There's a lot of people at Manchester United who are so desperate for Erik Ten Hag to do well because they understand the state of play at the club and what it's been like, what he's dealt with, how much effort he's tried to put into correcting a lot of the flaws they've had in terms of discipline and the culture around the place. But as it was put to me, he's talking himself out of a job. Some of the stuff he says in press conferences, and when you're looking at it back and you're thinking, I understand he's now probably feeling in a place of needing to defend himself and defend his job. And so he's trying to find the things to highlight that could be positive or underlying reasons that things aren't going well. But it sometimes jars with reality. And I think as a fan, if you're reading or listening to that, you're thinking, have you just watched the same game as I have? Or have you not seen the recurring trends over the last few months? So that I understand he feels that he's under so much pressure and he has to really fight for himself. But the quote I was given was he's talking himself out of a job.
Yeah, he's taken the media on, hasn't he? I mean, it was a fascinating press conference this week when he sort of said, he went back at them and said the media had described the game against Coventry, even though it was a victory in the end, as, you know, disgrace, embarrassment. And then he said, you're in a disgrace, you're an embarrassment, you know, to describe a win like that. Is he fighting the wrong battles at times? Because, you know, is it really important? And I say that genuinely, is it important to get the media behind you as a manager, to get the fans behind you? Because actually the job might itself become a little bit easier.
Well, the first thing to ask is, what is the media now? And I was very fascinated by that in midweek, because it's changed now from the days when you would wait until newspapers landed either around about 10:30 at night or the following morning. Now, fans are making their judgments on matches in real time. You only have to go on social media and look down the side and you can see what fans, the people with the financial investment as well as the emotional investment, the way that they are assessing matches. So, and what very often journalists do is they take into account, that's our job, to take into account what the fans think of it. We cannot be arrogant enough to believe that we are the arbiters and we are the only people who can decide what that our judgment of a game is the be-all and end-all.
Yeah.
The fans matter.
The agenda's already there.
It's already there. So kind of picking that fight, I was very fascinated by that. The numbers tell their own story. Before yesterday, United had conceded 76 goals in 45 matches. That's the most in all competitions. That's the most in Premier League history. Now, if you go into any given match, they are giving teams, regardless of where they are in the Premier League, opportunities to score against them. A better side, for example, the day after that press conference, would have taken the many chances that Sheffield United had to put them to the sword. Now, given that yesterday Newcastle made short work of Sheffield United, again, there's context for you. So everything that and after the match, you know, I kind of looked at some of the United fan sites to see what they were saying.
Yeah.
And to a man and woman, you know, they were all saying very similar things to the ways that the media, the traditional media, were characterising the match. So I do feel it's a good question. I do feel he's picking the wrong fight. It is not journalists that are coming for, if you like, or turning up at matches. And I must just, on that contingent in Manchester, they are we know them to be a contingent that do not turn up to press conferences with set agendas. They are fair, they are balanced, They take things on their own merits. And, you know, I think it's incredibly unfair to suggest that they are the bad guys in all of this.
I think for him, in some respects, he probably feels a little bit damned if I do, damned if I don't. He comes out and he's a disciplinarian and he gets, you know, shot down for that because it's not working for him. The Jadon Sancho situation, he's had off-field problems. He then tries to solve things by sort of backing his players, and then people come out and say, well, hang on a minute, did you not watch the same game? How can you back your players? Then he comes out and says, actually, my players aren't getting it right. Do you know, it's
yeah, but
one...
You know, what manager hasn't had all of those problems?
No, I agree.
You know, you go to any of the big clubs and there are managers who are fighting fires all the time, and we know that. And actually, there have been a lot of people who have been incredibly sympathetic, you know. And I've said on this show many times...
To be fair to him, I don't think any manager has had to deal with the spate and the scale of off-field issues that Ten Hag has had to.
That's one of the rare things I disagree with you on. I think all managers, behind the scenes, some managers are just better, and some clubs don't have the profile of Manchester United.
Yeah.
Every single thing that happens with Manchester United, because they are this monster in world football, it is exacerbated
but they
far
have had
more.
their off-field
I'm
problems
thinking
more
of
than
one particular club, for example, in the Championship that saved itself from relegation. There are individuals within that team where if they were playing for another club, the situation regarding those individuals would be huge. So I just think, as far as United are concerned, when you go to a big club and you're managing a big club, there's almost a symbiotic relationship with the media, because obviously the media's job, and I say media rather than press people, media takes on very different forms.
Yeah.
On this show and on this channel, there is a job to be able to do, not only to represent the game as it is, but to represent the fans' views of the games as well. And we have to recognise the ways in which media has changed. So to come into press conferences trying to pick fight with individual journalists, I just don't.
I just find it fascinating, though. If we look back to May 2022, Erik ten Hag came in and shook everyone's hand, and it was this lovely kind of like, Erik ten Hag, look at him. I mean, he's just come in and it's changing everything. And then now it's like, I'm not sure you'd want to shake anyone's hand. And that, you know, there just has been a lot going on. What are the papers saying today about Erik? Yeah, there I am. And that's another thing, you know, it's that whole thing, I suppose, if you're a paper reader, then you know, Erik ten Hag probably hasn't been out of the papers all year.
There are so many, but I am just going to pick out one for you. I'm going to pick out, let's see, let's go with Sunday Times, up in flames, because Jonathan Northcroft was at the game and he talked about, let's have a look. Sorry, this is the Manchester United paper. And we're going to go with James Ducker.
James Ducker, yes. So Telegraph, yeah, we're looking at, yeah.
And that's the Telegraph. I knew that eventually I would get one wrong.
There's a lot to go through,
There are
isn't
so many newspapers to get through. As James Ducker, and this is his piece. All around the post-match press conference, as you've been saying, he says that Erik ten Hag referred back to that time, the aftermath of this latest dimly received disappointment, referencing how even that team, the one of Ronaldo and a young Wayne Rooney in 2004-05, quote, didn't play that great football, but were building and required the patience for him he himself was now calling for. He even went as far as to suggest that some acerbic critics of his United who played in that Ferguson team, Rio Ferdinand, Roy Keane, Gary Neville and the like, had forgotten the pressure they were under then. It was an interesting point, says James, well made, but others might also note that those United sides never finished lower than third in the Premier League. And unlike Ten Hag, Ferguson had an exemplary body of work behind him that ensured him time. And that's the point that James makes, that Ineos has come in and they've wiped out the hierarchy at the top of the business, which suggests that they are not happy with what they've seen so far. And given Ten Hag's body of work, the spotlight is now on him.